right now. How to get relogged into that and then get everything going. But right now I am just chilling. We had a busy morning. We had a lot. I was gonna say that there was like a decent amount of news coming out, and then the story that just came out about 5 minutes ago probably trounced them all and maybe had to change how we talk about the spaces a little bit. But it was a big story. Should I get right into it?
Yeah, I was just putting out the tweet. I see Richard's here. What's going on, Richard?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Living the dream. Yeah, man, let's hop right into it, and then if those guys pop in, we'll transition over. But let's get right into the news, Evan.
Perfect, perfect. Well, listen, there's only one place to start here, and that was the story that just came out that Biden is going to renominate current Fed Chair Jerome Powell to serve a second term. As initially after it happened, I did see stocks moving higher. I got a couple notifications that like my Apple and Nvidia were both at all-time highs, but we'll see going forward. Yeah, so I think that's a good one to have some good group discussion on. So I won't harp on it too much. Moving past that one, we had an interesting story from Uber this morning that they are starting to allow users in Ontario, Canada, to place orders for weed, cannabis through Uber Eats. So it's through a retailer, a cannabis retailer called Tokyo Smoke, and it's going to start this Monday. So actually today in Ontario. So we'll see if we can get any people who are up there. I know Gerg is in Canada. I don't know if he's in Ontario, but we'll see if anyone from FinTwit will tell us how that goes. Another major thing that happened last night, Tesla CEO Elon Musk came out and responded to a couple people, and one of the responses was in reference to the Model S Plaid, and it was asking, when is it going to be in China? And Elon Musk's response was that around March in China, probably. So we'll see how it goes. Elon Musk time might be a thing here. He did use the word probably, which in my mind makes it's almost definitely Elon time, so it's probably going to be after that, but we'll see. That's besides the point. Another story that I saw this morning was Amazon Web Services announced that Adidas is going to use AWS for its SAP workloads to transition that into the cloud. Adidas selected AWS as its preferred cloud provider, and I'm sure that will lead to more integrations. Just another large partnership for Amazon Web Services. Some stories from over the weekend. Bloomberg reported that Monster has had some talks or some discussions around the possibility of acquiring Constellation Brands. For those of you guys who don't know, the Constellation Brands is they make beers such as Corona, Corona Light, Modelo, and a couple others. They also invested $5 billion in Canopy Growth a couple years ago. Part of that investment has been written down, so it's not worth $5 billion at this point. Definitely not. But they are still kind of diversifying there. Bloomberg is reporting that Monster spoke with outside advisors and a couple other people of that about how a deal would work and the possibilities of it. It's actually where they got the sources from. So we'll see if anything happens there. This is definitely very, very early stages on that. So I wouldn't hold your breath, but it's definitely a possibility of going forward. Keeping it
Perfect.
moving. I still got a couple more. Should we keep going?
All you.
Perfect. All right. So Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick, you guys know that there's been a lot of reports around them and Activision about a toxic work culture, a lot of sexual harassment claims and allegations from there. So just the CEO told senior managers over the weekend that he would consider leaving the company if he can't quickly fix the culture problems at the video game giant. That's according to the Wall Street Journal. So keep an eye on that one. We have Zoom reporting earnings today after the markets close. That's going to be a major story. I will maybe be writing my newsletter about it. We'll see. But Wall Street is expecting EPS of $1.10, up 11.1% year over year, and the revenue of $1.02 billion, up 31.2% year over year. We'll get into that a little bit more. One story that came out, this might have been Friday, but it was definitely around then. I thought it was actually really interesting and kind of funny, kind of an interesting move. But Citadel CEO Ken Griffin outbid a group of investors for a copy of the U.S. Constitution. So this was from last week. The Constitution DAO was a huge major topic, and I know a lot of you guys probably saw this, but for anyone who didn't, the auction was last week. I think it was Thursday, maybe Friday. And they were outbid. It was really confusing on everything and who outbid them. And it came out a day later that the Citadel CEO, who for a lot of you guys know that was in the news for the whole GameStop situation in January and February. So the entire retail crowd is already against him. He came out and bought the piece, outbid the constitutional DAO, and is going to donate the piece or let it be. Sorry, lend the piece. Of course, not going to donate it. Lend the piece to a museum in Arkansas. So that will be there. Sorry. Another story from over the weekend. This is kind of sports and stocks, but they have a stock, so I do enjoy talking about it. Manchester United. So the ticker is ManU. For all any of you soccer football fans out there, they called an emergency board meeting yesterday after a pretty big loss, 4-1. They did get a red card, but it was a pretty decent loss against Watford, and they fired their coach Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. They appointed Michael Carrick as interim manager, but I'm just going to quickly check and see the stock if it's moved at all. I would imagine it would. It has not moved at all.
No, it's up actually.
Is it?
Yeah, up 1%.
That's fascinating.
1.5% now, yeah.
I love being able to cover like these sports stocks, and like Manchester United has been a great excuse for me to get in here. I love soccer, so it's just a fun thing to watch, a good proxy. It's much more entertainment than investment for me, but this is definitely something that I'll be watching going forward. I would expect volatility around this, 100%.
I agree, but I don't get why anyone would own MANU. Like the stock has been flat for the last 5 years. It doesn't move.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree from an investing standpoint. I think that this is the type of thing where if you're a fan and you enjoy sport, maybe it's just on your radar and you kind of have the excuse to talk about it as a stock, but I don't really see the investment. Maybe there's some trade opportunities in it. Maybe this could create one, but we'll see.
Yeah, I heard you mention about Activision, right? ATVI and the CEO scandal they had.
Yeah, the CEO said over the weekend that he would consider stepping down if he can't fix the culture quickly.
Yeah, so the CEO took a 99.99% pay cut. I don't know if that has been reported by now, but I don't think it has. But I think the only way the stock rebounds is if he leaves. And even today pre-market, they got 4 downgrades to 65, 60, 55 bucks. I see a big group of Activision investors stepping in to revamp the business only if the CEO leaves and they do a major shakeup in management. But personally, I'm looking to go long Activision if the CEO leaves. I think
this feels like a prototypical Elliott management type thing where they're going to come in, unlock a little bit of value, but just by getting him to leave and maybe a little bit of a shakeup.
Yep, Elliott could other people do, right? Right now you have so many Activision groups. But the problem is I talked to 2 of them. They said they are waiting for the CEO to step down. No one wants to go into that right now. No one has any plans until the CEO leaves. So there are 4 people who might do that. Let me find the list. Let's see. Here we go. So the 4 group of Activisions that might go and step in
Wait,
Activision.
Gerg, while you're looking that up, we'll come back to this stuff after.
Yeah.
It is 9:30. Market's open. I want to throw it back to Guy for the market open section.
Yeah, let's take a look at market open real quick. Looks like mostly green open from what I'm seeing overall. So Facebook is up. Apple, like we talked about, hitting new highs. Tesla right off the bat up 2.3%. Up to that 1163 points. I think that there's a lot of bullish sentiment right now around Tesla, largely driven by the fact that a majority of money that we were seeing in a lot of these markets was going straight into large caps. So people are kind of just skipping right out on the small caps. So I'm just taking a look at a couple of scanners to see if anything comes in off the bat. Nothing just yet. I see some call flow. Oh, there comes some more. Okay, I'm also holding, so right now I'm holding Facebook, $362.50 calls. They're weeklies. They just popped about 42% at the open, but don't let that fool you. They went down on Friday, so they still have a little bit to go. The Marvell one's up about 6%. Twitter about flat, Snapchat about flat. So social media looking flat at the open. SE, popular name, down 1%. NEO, maybe this is getting a boost off of some Tesla news, up 6.5% and moving. So it looks like it's doing pretty good there. Seems to be catching a bid and some volume. Palantir about flat. Celsius, that was my pick of the week. We'll see how that starts out. Celsius is down about 1% this morning, down to the 72 levels. I wonder if it's going to touch the 200-day. Again, Celsius stock has CLH has never touched its 200-day moving average. So hopefully that provides some strong support. AEHR continues a little bit of a slide down 2% into the 19 range. Let's take a look at some of the popular names from last week. TRT up 9%. Ooh, wow, 6%. I don't know. This thing's volatile as heck. If you're in TRT, which if you listen to a lot of Stock Talk Weekly's calls last week, you might be. That one is just all over the place. All right, those Facebook calls are up now 100% on this morning, which coincidentally brings them back to just about even for me because they dropped off 50% on Friday. AMD up 1.65%. Let's see what else is happening. Apple is just continuing. This is its best week in a long time. Apple is now up 8.5% on the past week. RIP the Apple calls that I got stopped out of, but they were looking kind of crazy. And crypto having a bit of a pop this morning. It initially popped before bell, right at 840. I don't know if probably everyone saw that. There was like $1,000, $2,000 move in Bitcoin. It's now kind of traversing a little bit sideways, so we'll have to see what happens there. But let's throw it over to Richard, who we have joining us today. Really excited to have you on, Richard. Would love to hear what you're looking at right off the bat. And if you have any comments on these Facebook calls, let me know.
Sure. So first of all, just looking at the overall market, we're at all-time high, so that's good. But we are being supported a little bit by the mega caps, in my opinion. Apple, as you mentioned, has been on a tear. It had a really nice pivot at 152, and I think we actually in the space last week, and you asked me what I thought of Apple, and I was like, wow, that's a nice looking chart. So mega caps have been really exploding higher. And I think that is hiding a little bit of the weakness in a lot of other stocks. If you look at some of the breadth indicators like the T2106 built into TC2000, the McClellan oscillator, this is actually pretty ugly. Breadth is definitely declining. If you look at the T2108, which is the percentage of stocks above their 4-day moving averages, that's been declining over the past 2 weeks. So we are seeing a fair bit of weakness, and not much from my space has been working terribly well outside of Roblox, of course. But a lot of those that have been working are a little bit short-term extended, Roblox included in that space. So I did actually this morning try SEDG, bought it through that pivot around 371. I think I got 372 and change. This is breaking out of a longer-term base. It's got a pivot at just below 372. You've got that high at 371.08, which is what I was treating as the pivot. Looking good so far. Volume Buzz is tracking the volume at 1,000% above average, which is always a good sign on a breakout. And we'll have to see whether it sticks into all-time highs and finishes strongly with a good closing range. But right now, my stop is at the low of the day on that. The other names I was really focused on today aren't doing terribly well, honestly. I had SI, Airbnb, Sophie, and NEWR on my list, and almost all of those are pretty red. So once again, not much is working in that growth space too well. LTHM was another one on my focus list. This had a gap and go off the 21 EMA. I would have loved to see it kind of open within the prior day's range from Friday and then break through those highs. But unfortunately, we've got a gap. Pretty hard to manage risk unless you're using an opening range breakout, a 5-minute, 15-minute opening range breakout, and then you can manage risk versus the low of the day. But I just kind of left that alone, and so far it's holding up pretty well right near the high of the day. But so far, I think only about 4 or 5 from my focus list of about 10, 11 are green. LTHM is faring the best, and SEDG is holding up pretty well. But again, I want to see how that closes out. I definitely want to see a lot of volume coming in on this breakout because if it does turn around and finish at the lows of the day, I'll definitely be cutting my position just because that's not showing a lot of conviction by buyers. But that's kind of my take on the market and kind of the overall growth space. And yeah, any follow-up questions?
Yeah, so with this pullback in the growth space, are you going to be focusing more heavily on some of the large caps this week?
So large caps are holding up a lot better. They're showing relative strength. But I'm definitely, if we do get some type of pullback, this is just one day. It's not necessarily a pullback. I'll be watching to see which ones hold above the 10-day moving average, the 21 EMA, which ones are forming proper pivots, because a lot of them are kind of extended from their really proper base that they broke out of maybe a month and a half ago, a few weeks ago, and now they're trying to form their first pullback to the 21 EMA, 50 SMA. So I'll be watching for signs of relative strength from these names, and yeah, just see what kind of holds up the best. And one more that I forgot to mention is that I'm also watching is Bros. It's still very early. It's been pulling back the past 21 days, and it had not a great reaction to earnings and lost the IPO-based pivot. But it is one that I'm watching. It had a reversal on Friday, although on lower volume than a lot of the decline. But if it can form something, tighten up, let the 21 EMA kind of catch back up to the downside, and if it can burst up through that moving average, that's what I'm watching as well. I think it's got a nice story, great fundamentals, great earnings sales. And yeah, in general, I think it's in kind of it's still in its IPO advanced phase potentially. But if it does really lose the lows of 43, I think it's going to enter that longer term primary base institutional due diligence phase. But right now it's kind of in a middle period that we're not quite sure if it's going to recover and rally, or if it's just going to pull back and start that longer term basing phase. But that's definitely also on my radar. I was watching it last week to hold near that IPO base pivot near 60. It lost that, but did hold 50. So that's just another one on my radar. Not really super high up on my list, just because it needs a little bit more time and to form a range down here. But yeah, I figured I'd mention that as well.
Very nice. All right, let me throw a few other names at you. So GME was actually getting a lot of talk on our play of the week call last night. I was just looking at calls for it. Sadly, did not get in. They just freaking ran. I was looking at the weekly 320s, which were trading at like $5 an hour, up at 680. Thoughts on GME right here? People like it from a technical perspective.
Yeah, it's got that little bit of tightening. It had a nice pivot that it broke through last Friday, and that was at the Wednesday 11/17 high, which was around 216. And it's progressing well. Not gonna lie, this isn't really one that's on my radar, just because it's not necessarily driven by fundamentals, which I kind of like to focus on. But the price action is strong. It's got a lot of work to do. If it can break through 250, that would be a plus. You can see that big reversal bar and candle on 11/3 where it broke through 250, but then retraced all the way back to 215, showing a lot of volatility. And that's kind of what I'm worried about with these type of names, where you can have dramatic pullbacks intraday, and it's just a little bit harder to manage risk. But you did have a pretty tight entry on Friday potentially, and setting the stop at the low of the day would have been less than a 5% stop loss, pretty decent. But looking at the overall chart, it's kind of got, it's got 90%, then 50%, then 60% pullbacks in this one. So it depends on your time frame. I think you can trade this, but because it's not super fundamentally driven, I think there are better options and more promising themes out there that you could focus on.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely makes sense to me. Okay, so did you speak ready on Facebook?
Oh, sorry if I missed that. Let's go. So looking at Facebook, it's forming out maybe the bottom of a little bit of a cup-shaped base here. It found support near the 200-day moving average. I was actually expecting it to break down below 316, but it held that high volume close pretty well, had an inside day on 1028, and then pushed up from there. So it still needs to tighten up a little bit before I would consider an entry, but it's acting pretty strong above the 21 EMA, 10 SMA. It's back above a declining 50 SMA. So if we can see it go sideways for a week and just let those moving averages kind of flatten out, I think that could be the start of a really nice push back towards all-time highs. And obviously, you've got some fundamental drivers coming on here. The relative strength line has been increasing steadily over the past 20 days or so. So it's outperforming the market, which I always want to see when I'm potentially entering a stock. But right now, it's just kind of in the wick from last Friday, not doing too much right near 350. So yeah, that's kind of my take. It's setting up, not necessarily in a prime spot for my trading style personally, but is back above all those moving averages, which is definitely a good sign.
Okay, awesome. All right, Richard, I'm gonna come back to you in in a few minutes, but Gerg, I
Sure.
wanted to throw it over to you. See what you're looking at market open here.
So MU, right? MU is my topic for the week. It already broke 85. I think this might be $90 this week, so just watch some more calls.
Wait, so what level are you buying calls at? What strike?
85.
85 weeklies?
No, next week, right? So this week the market is open for 3.5 days. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday the market is closed, and Friday the market closes at 1 p.m. So half day. So on weeks like this, I like to play further out of the money, further out of the expiry, my bad. Because historically, if you play weeklies on a week that only 3 or 4 days are open, 9 times of the time you lose money just because of theta, right? So, and the premiums compared to this weren't expensive; they were a 30% gap. So, I'm willing to pay a 30% premium to get 5 more days. And I bought those calls at 270 just now. So right now they're at 290.
Okay. Okay, interesting. MU, yeah, that's one that's definitely been on the radar. We were talking
Yeah.
about that a lot
Yep.
on this call last week.
And look at what happened
Unfortunately,
last week. Since last week, MU is up how much? Let's see. So MU is up 12% so far. Not bad for a week, right?
not bad at all.
And you
Always
guys
nice to see
remember,
that.
can you talk crypto here? No.
Yeah, of course.
Do you guys remember CRO, CRO?
Yeah, Crow's running, huh?
Yeah, we talked about, right? I talked about in the spaces last week. And just a day after that, they got the partnership with the Lakers Stadium. They spent 700 million to buy the naming rights. The Staples Center is called the Crypto.com Center, and since then the coin is up 75%. It's just broke a new all-time high. I did sell most of it at $1, but I still have a lot of stake. So if you want a new crypto play, look at Crow. But I do believe if Bitcoin pulls back, you might see a 60% pullback in Crow. So I wouldn't buy here, but wait for the pullback on that. I think that can be the next 100 billion coin.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I didn't even like ever purchase any. I just had some that I got from referrals and stuff, and I think it like quadrupled, which is pretty crazy to see.
How much are you up right now?
Evan, yeah. I think I'm up like 4x on it, but it wasn't a lot of money. I just like referred a few people. Crypto.com was always weird for me to figure out, to be honest. The interface was not the most straightforward. When it came to like signing up and like actually transferring in and out money. I don't feel like they did as good of a job as some others. But their coin's still going up. So who's the real winner? Okay, Evan, what about you? Anything you're looking at?
Stock wise, let's see. Well, first thing is Zoom. I mentioned the earnings a little bit, but they do have earnings today after the markets close. I think we should talk about that with Gergen a little bit about the setup into it in the future, but I'll move on from that quickly. That's a good future discussion. Um, I'm watching a lot of the mega cap stocks. They were quickly mentioned as kind of leading the market, and it's been a limited scope of what stocks have been working recently. But when you're a mega cap mostly investor, it's not that bad of a thing. I'm watching Apple moving higher today. Facebook, Tesla, Nvidia leading the portfolio. Nvidia is having a great day, up 3.8%. Two stocks that I would love to maybe get Richard and Gerg's opinions on. First one is Square. They announced they're going to be starting a decentralized exchange. They announced it on Friday, I believe, right around the market's close, and I haven't seen any pump from that. I don't know exactly how this is going to work, if there's going to be any profits from it, but it is something that I would have expected to move the stock a little bit higher, but as opposed, it has moved it lower. So I'd love people's thoughts on Square and maybe if they have any thoughts on that decentralized exchange. And the other one I wanted to know about is a stock that has been ripping recently, at least a little bit. I don't know if that's the way, but Amazon. It is not quite at all-time highs, still a little, still a tiny bit off of all-time highs. But it's been having a great time recently. It's right around 3,700. Is this a stock? Yeah. Overall, I would love to get Richard or Gerg's thoughts on that one as well. So I don't know if either of you guys have like or have already looked into Square or Amazon, but if either of you guys have, would love to hear your opinions on it. You guys can just jump at it.
Yes.
Sure.
Richard?
Let me go
Yeah,
back
go
to
ahead,
MU, right, for 1 second. The call I mentioned is of 50% in the last 4 minutes. So if anyone got, then congrats. But I do love Square long term. And for the short term, I did buy PayPal. So, like, PayPal is getting hammered for almost no good reason. They started selling off after the Prince deal, but the earnings weren't that bad. They did reduce the guidance for Q4, but next year they plan to launch the crypto and the stock trading platform. So, are you guys playing Zoom? I think for the weekly there's the weekly play. You guys should play Zoom pods. Why? Because last four earnings for Zoom were all red, and the average move was 10% on the downside. So,
Perfect. We'll talk about that one a little bit more. I think that's actually maybe a direction we're leaning towards. It could be interesting, but I would love to get Richard's thoughts on either of the two stocks, Square or Amazon, if you have them quickly.
Yeah, sure. So bring up the chart of Square. Gerg mentioned PayPal as well. They look kind of similar. Both are kind of in a downtrend, which I kind of stay away from. Sorry about the barking in the background if you guys can hear that, by the way. But I'll try to speak loudly. So yeah, it's not really in my focus. It's breaking that prior low within the base, the 223 level. And for me, Square just needs a lot of time. It's pretty wide and loose in here, and it needs to form out a proper base and tighten up before I would be interested in it. And right now it's just kind of wide and loose because there's not really a direction to the stock. Some hedge funds are liquidating, probably others are accumulating, and there just isn't that balance yet in terms of supply and demand. And PayPal looks very similar. It's trending below a 10-day moving average. So this actually looks like it's really being distributed. It doesn't look great at all. And for me, it would need to find a bottom, flatten out, go sideways for a few months, retake the moving averages, retake the 200-day before I would really be interested in it. It's just not a leading stock in the market. And if you look at the relative strength line, even though it made new price all-time highs back in, looks like July 16th, July 20th area, the relative strength line, so relative to the market, it did not make a new high. So basically, the relative strength line is kind of giving you the hint that this is underperforming, and that was even before it dropped. Almost 40% from that point. So the relative strength line and price are in a downtrend. So it's not really one that's super high up in my focus. Going over to Amazon, this looks a lot better. This is kind of similar to a lot of the big caps right now. It also had a really nice pivot forming, and that was right at the high of 1110, and that was at 3,605 and 45 cents. So that was a really nice pivot. It broke out of that on Thursday when a lot of the mega caps really stepped in and did incredibly well, and it was also basically a weekly wick play, meaning it opened within the wick that week and broke out through that same high, 3,605. So Amazon looks good. I personally not really interested in Square or Apple until their price trends basically turn things around.
Love it. If I could slip in another question here, I know we'll get some more talks about it a little bit more when Peter comes on. But Richard, I'd love to start with you on this one.
Sure.
The Fed chair, obviously Jerome Powell was there. There's some rumors or whatever. I don't know how fully it is, but it sounds definitive. But he's going to be elected for a second chair as Fed chairman.
Yeah.
Second term as Fed chairman. Just initial reactions. Did that change how you were positioning yourselves in the market or any trades you were looking to make, or just kind of initial thoughts or takeaways from that?
Yeah, sure. I'm not quite sure who the market was expecting, but it seems like big caps are doing reasonably well. The Bitcoin-related stocks or crypto-related, are also rallying. So maybe there's some more thoughts about inflation and that trend continuing on with Jerome. But for me, that macro stuff is kind of goes above my head, and I'm just kind of focused on the price reactions to it, and that will kind of point me to the leaders that will benefit from the best environment. So I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but that's kind of how I treat fundamentals. The price strength, the relative strength, the price trends, all of that will kind of point me to leadership stocks that are created, those trends that are created from the particular macro environment without really having to understand the intricacies behind everything that's going on.
Awesome. No, you're good. Good answer. Good answer. That's definitely the direction I would have gone with it. But Gerg, I'd love to throw the same thing at you.
What's the question? I was just banged the dip on something.
So Jerome Powell being reelected for a second term this morning. Just initial reactions to that, and did that change maybe how you were positioning yourself this morning or any trades you were going to make?
I don't think so, right? I think everyone knew that. If you look at the odds, it was 70%, and the other one, I forgot the name, was 25. I thought he would be kicked out. Why? Because Trump was the first politician to politicize this. So before that, he was elected by Obama, even though Jerome was from a different party, but Trump was the first one to get someone from his own party, so I expected Biden to do the same, but he didn't, so that's a good thing. But I think we still get the rate hike now. After he gets elected officially for the second term, that's when we get the rate hikes. I don't think he will do them right now. But I'm still bullish on SPY and QQQ.
Awesome. Awesome, Don. I appreciate that. I'm sure when Peter comes on here, we'll get a little more talk onto it, and you guys can jump on that. I think that's something he'll be all over, but I'll throw it back to you, Gal.
Yeah, let me throw a couple more out here. So, Richard, the biggest thing that I'm seeing right now this morning, Tesla always leads the market in level two data when it's just getting hammered with calls, but Apple is just getting repeatedly hammered here on the weekly, specifically on the 162s and the 162 and a halves. This Apple setup from a technical perspective, how's it looking to you?
Yeah, Apple looks super strong, and a lot of the big caps do. But from my perspective, it's already come so far in the past week or 5 days or so from the proper buy point that I'm not really interested in until it sets up again. So, looking at the chart, if you bring up a daily, and I'll post a screenshot after I'm done talking, I want to buy when price is tight against the moving averages, pretty much within the base, and when it's forming a clear pivot. And by pivot, what I mean is a recent resistance level. It might be the high of the last week. It might be the high of 2 weeks ago. Basically, a clear level where when price moves against it, there's a directional move expected. And if it either breaks through that, that's kind of the buy point, and there's a clear spot to manage risk. Or if it reverses off of that, you basically know that the stock isn't ready to break through that resistance yet, and you're either stopped out with a small loss, or if you can basically take the trade flat if you're very quick. So for me, the pivot point was back at around 152.52, which was the high of 11.4, or even the high of 11.15 on last Monday, because there you've got almost not quite an inside day forming the next day on that Tuesday, but pretty tight days against the 21 EMA. And then that Wednesday, 11.17, I think, is the prime buy point as it breaks through that 151.87 pivot and also the 152.51 pivot all in one bar. And that's really the start of this momentum burst that we're seeing. But now the stock is up 8% in 4 days, which is pretty strong, which is pretty quick for Apple at this stage in its life cycle. So it's just a little bit extended, short-term extended for me, but nevertheless, I mean, it's showing a lot of strength right here. Huge volume coming in on that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then today, you definitely want to see it stay strong as well. But I think a lot of swing traders, if they bought on that 11-17 day, will be selling into the strength. If you're a position trader, you might be selling a third. If you're an investor, you're probably in from a long time ago. So that's kind of how I'm handling things and seeing things. And also, even earlier than that 11-17 date, there's also a bullish outside day off the 50 SMA on 11-12 that Friday. So I'll be sure to post a chart and kind of label these things. But that was kind of the earliest buy point. You could have bought it as it retook that high from 11-11, which was just under 150. And then from there, went sideways. Those first 2 days formed the additional pivot against the 21 EMA. And then, like I said, really took off on volume. So it looks super strong, Apple, but for my style, it's hard to set a stop loss here less than 5%, or like basically because it's such a liquid leader. It's basically hard to manage risk at this level when it's already had a really powerful move over the course of a few days. So that's kind of my take on it. Super strong. But just kind of wait and see at this point.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty fair. One thing that's coming across my radar right now is BLMN. It is just getting a lot of action right now. That is Bloomin' Brands, which has been way being down for a while. Any thoughts on BLMN here?
Yeah, so this is pretty much the stock I try to avoid. It might be getting a lot of volume today, but it needs to prove itself to me. It needs to prove itself that it's ready to start another uptrend and actually go on a meaningful run. Because when stocks are in downtrends below their declining 50 days, declining 200-day moving averages, they're being distributed by institutions net net. That's why the price has fallen basically 40% from all-time highs and is below all those moving averages, is because there's not enough buying conviction to support them. So for me, it would have to form a bottom, kind of flatten out, form a rounded bottom, let the moving averages work themselves out, get back under price, and then from there, maybe if you really like the story, that's a good spot to buy. But for me, it's still in a downtrend, even though it's up today. It could be down another 5% tomorrow. If you look at CGC from last week, it was kind of the same situation. It's been below a declining 50-day, and any pops back into that moving average have been sold down. And last week was kind of no difference. It was up early on, or actually 2 weeks ago, but then the entirety of last week, it lost 25% in just a short time. So these stocks that are seeing these longer term downtrends are not leading the market, and it takes time for the supply and demand relationship to even out and get rid of all the weak holders, and then maybe the stocks are ready to make a turn. But for me, anything below a declining 50-day and especially a declining 200-day moving average are suspect and not really a focus for a position type time frame. You can definitely swing trade these pops, but that's not really my style. I think even if you're swing trading, the odds are better for you. And if you're focusing on stocks near all-time highs, like a lot of the semiconductor names, NVIDIA, AMD, AOSL, and MU, as Gerg was mentioning before.
Got it. Well, let's talk about potential play of the week names right now, since we just hit on MU, which was a potential one, and some other ones. Evan, do you have any ones off the bat that stand out to you? Maybe anything from last night's call?
Yeah, I mean, we'll take my call from last night. I'm going to start with Zoom short. They have earnings today. And obviously, if this was us kind of doing our normal thing, trying to get a long-term strategy, maybe we wouldn't be playing earnings. Before this trade of the week, Gerg will talk through kind of the previous setup, but it could be a decent play for us.
So let's look at the history, right? For earnings, I think the most important thing is to know the previous results and how did the stock move. Even though the numbers could be great, one bad line and the stock gaps down 10%. But for Zoom, the average move priced by the option market by Friday is 9.5%, and the last four earnings, they were all red. Last earnings, you saw a 15% dip. Before that, in June, it was flat, but March down 9 points. Before that, it was down 15%. So the last earnings for this quarter last year, you saw a move negative 15% the following day. I think the street wants 1.02 billion, right? What's the revenue estimate? Last one I saw was 1.02 billion, correct?
I want to say it was like 1.11 billion, but let me look it up for you quickly. Continue.
Yeah, I think it was 1.02 billion, I think, around that. I think this gets hammered too, but this trade seems to get very crowded already. I've talked to almost 15% who are buying puts and going short soon, so the premiums are a bit expensive, and the trade seems to be already very crowded for me. Like if I see, if I see a trade that everyone is hopping in, I try to stay away.
No, I actually too totally agree with that. There's always that old adage that 90% of people in the market lose money. So when you're swimming with 90% of the market, that does scare me.
Yeah, this is like 100%. I haven't seen a single person who's bullish on the earnings, so this scares me. If I see everyone is bearish on something or a particular event, I like to bet against that or not even play that.
Richard, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, just to kind of give my take on Zoom, I think it's another one of those where it's in a longer term decline. It's already had a massive run in 2020, and right now, I think if nobody had heard of Zoom last year, it wouldn't really be on anybody's radar. It's just because it's already had a 500% run that people think it's going to be able to do it again this year. So for me, it's gapping down after earnings recently. It's getting sold into the 200-day moving average. It's one of those where it looks like it's getting distributed net, and it could 100% have a character change and gap up on earnings and maybe start something, but it's got now a lot of overhead resistance, overhead supply kind of acting as resistance, where if it does get popped up to 300 or so, it's going to run to everybody who bought there and wants to sell, and that's going to create a lot of resistance, like I said, and just kind of slow down any potential advance. So for me, the time to get involved with Zoom, and I did, was last year during the institutional advance phase, starting in February of 2020. It had that massive run, riding the 50-day moving average to the upside. And I see Eric Kroll actually in the audience. His team wrote an excellent book, The Life Cycle Trade, which really goes in depth into when you want to be involved in these recent IPOs. You've got the institutional advance phase, you've got the IPO advance phase, and now you're kind of after the institutional advance phase, and potentially just entering a longer term basing period, which definitely could turn into another uptrend at some point. But right now, the technicals aren't super strong, at least the long term trend.
Okay, so I'm a little. I feel like we're kind of back and forth on this one, Evan. What do you think?
I kind of agree that this trade, everyone has been on top of it, and I'm sure the premiums are really extended. I have not looked at it, so although I do feel like it will go down. Maybe there are better places to look.
Okay, so here's an interesting one that I was talking about last week. So AUPH was getting a lot of activity last week, and something happened today. Um, I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I mean, this thing was just getting a lot of calls were coming in. Granted, they were weeklies last week, so they weren't going into this week, but the stock just dropped 24.5% today.
What's the stock called?
And
I didn't find the news on that. What's the ticker?
AUPH.
AUPS.
And
Okay.
I'm looking at it, and people are still sweeping into this pretty heavily with calls. I mean, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sweeps
They got
for.
in 250 million offering, according to Bloomberg.
Okay.
No, they didn't drop that. They plan to drop in 250 million offering.
Yeah, I mean, this stock is just kind of plummeting
Yeah,
on it.
the MU calls I mentioned are 150%. If anyone got them, congrats. Yeah, you guys should play this on the week or the play of the week, whatever that is.
Play which?
MU calls.
Still, they're up to 87 now.
Yeah, they're up 180% now. Maybe go
Well,
a
I'm
bit
saying that,
higher. $90.
yeah, the stock's up to 80, 87 now. You think it's going to go up to 90?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm looking at this beaten down AUPH and seeing maybe there's some potential here. Although I don't know. I mean, it's
So
clearly still
personally,
falling.
I hate to play pharma players.
Yeah,
A lot
I
of
hear
them
you.
are
I
very,
think
very unpredictable, right? One bad FDA delay or FDA rejection, the stock is down 50%, especially if they have only one or two drugs in the pipeline. And the IV is so damn high on these, you can't even play both sides. Like I remember one event that I played a year back or 2 years back. The stock moved 120%, the puts were down 99%, and the calls were only at 50%. The IV was 350, so that's why I hate these bio and the pharma players, especially for them to like hold them through a PDUFA, that's an approval, and FDA can just like do it a week before too, so that sucks too. But otherwise, there's
yo.
no news other than the offering that they plan to do. So you might be able to get the
Okay.
bounce back on this. But let me check the pipeline.
Yeah, that seems to be what people are trying to do here with the calls. Also, Evan, I just saw the notification. Is the street at 3 p.m. today?
Yeah.
Wait, I thought this was on Wednesday.
Nope, it was moved to today. I thought I didn't do that.
Okay.
So
I
personally, I like the look of a lot of the solar names and also the crypto plays. SI just bought some more through yesterday's high. Is super strong at all-time highs. Those would kind of be my suggestions. But coin is also pretty tight against the 21 EMA. You could set your stop right at the low of the day. A pretty minimal risk, but you also probably want to wait for a definitive break of that downward trend line. Or just breaking out that inside day and up. But those would kind of be my suggestions.
What were the
what
tickers?
what about MU, Richard, which is kind of coming back towards its all-time high?
Yeah, it's super strong, but it's also come 14% in 2 days. It could definitely continue, but you're getting in a little late. You probably want to get it through the 200-day moving average through 79.
I think that's long gone. I don't think we'll see that again for a while. But if it's gambling money,
It's not low risk anymore.
I wouldn't open a position. I've sold 75% of a position. I still have 200 calls left for next week, but I still think this might make a move higher. But if you're ever up 100%, first thing you should do is sell your cost. That's what I do. Even if I have very, very strong conviction, if I'm up 100%, I sell my cost right away. So even if it shits the bed, I still don't lose money.
These Tesla calls are wild. They just move so quick.
And they're very expensive for most people, Dina.
Yeah, they're pretty expensive. I mean, unless you're buying weekly out of the monies.
I mean, with them, right, they do have a higher potential risk or reward, but 9 times out of 10, they will expire worthless. So usually with options, there is a reason. Most of them are so cheap. Further out of the money, same with calls and puts. Because the chance of them hitting is like 1 in a million. So, like, I saw a video of someone saying how to turn $1 into 4,000 in SPY. And the thing he did was he bought 15% out of the money calls of SPY, expiring the same day. So,
Yeah, definitely practice caution with that. Hey, real quick, to everyone in the audience that's chilling out with us, make sure that you're following our speakers up here. Gavin and Richard were very kind to come on with us this morning, hang out, talk stocks. We're going to be charting. We'll probably be live trading for a little bit. We're still talking about play of the week. We've already, I think, given out some pretty good ones with MU, which Gavin gave out. We've talked about a couple of others that have had some nice days. Apple has been up since open. So make sure that you are following them. Great way to see us show up at the top of your timeline. Myself and my co-host, Evan, over here, do this every single Monday. We've been doing it every Monday for a while now. And we also have a host of other spaces throughout the week, including at 3 p.m. and at 6:30 p.m. EST today. So as long as you're following, you will see those show up at the top of your timeline, and you'll be able to dive into the markets with us. We're also, the one at 6 p.m. today, 6:30 p.m. today, I'm really excited for is going to be when to sell, because I think a lot of people find it easy to, get in on the play, to buy, but when do you sell? If you're up, if you're down, there's a lot that goes into that. So make sure that you are checking that one out. Okay, Evan, bringing it back to you. What else is on your mind right here?
A little big Uno switcheroo card. I'm going to throw it right back to you. Can you give us 20, 30 seconds on the Google Calendar?
Yeah, I can give that out. So real quick, if you're in the audience and you're not already on the Google Calendar, please listen closely for just 1 second. This is something which myself and Evan have been working on now for months. And it's essentially, how can we make sure that people can make it to Google Spaces or to Twitter Spaces when they don't know when the spaces are going to happen, right? Because unless you're sitting on Twitter and you see the tweet about it and you set a reminder on that tweet, you're not really going to know when all these spaces are going to happen. And of course, you're living busy lives. You got work, you got other things. You want to go out to the club, whatever it is. So how can you know when all the spaces are going to be? We've solved that problem very simply. All you need to do is join our free public Google Calendar. There's multiple ways to join this. The easiest one is to just DM either me or Evan up here with your email. and just say, hey, add me to Google Calendar. You'll simply get an email that says you want to overlay this on your calendar. You will then have all the Twitter spaces just lined up right on your calendar. And you can see, all right, here's this one at 6:30 p.m. Here's this one at 3 p.m. Whatever it is, I don't have to schedule over. You'll get a little notification 10 minutes beforehand. All this is customizable too. You can toggle it on and off. You can unsubscribe at any time. It'll always be free. It's just a way for us to show people when things are happening. Our spaces are on it. Stock Talk Weekly, who just joined up, his spaces are on it. I'll get you up here as co-host in just a second, bud. And I just highly recommend it. So once again, if you're not already on it, just slide into the DMs. I see some DMs coming in now, and we'd love to put you on there. Over 1,000 people currently on that, coming up on like 1,300 actually. So it's moving good. Evan, how's that?
Perfect. I love it. One of the most valuable things that I think that we've created 100%. And just I want to reiterate, when you guys are sending your DMs over, make sure your email is included so you can expedite the process as much as possible. And you guys are not going to regret being on this Google Calendar. It's something that honestly Twitter has to make themselves. Like, this is such a compelling product. But with that, I won't keep harping on it. Gav, I'll throw it back to you to throw it back over to Stock Talk Weekly, I imagine.
Yeah, Stock Talk Weekly. What's going on, man? Talk to us through your morning so far.
Yeah, guys. Hey, sorry about being so late. I had to pack my stuff. I'm going to Houston today, so I was just frantically last minute packing in the typical fashion that I do. But yeah, no, it's been a good morning. TRT got off to a nice ripper right in the morning. Went close to that 1050 range, which was good to see. I expected to see some small cap resurgence this week. LTHM is doing great, which TSDR called yesterday on Play of the Week. It's a stock that I've been long for. If you search my handle and you search LTHM, you will find tweets for like I think the entire time my account is. Sorry, I cut out there. But yeah, LTHM is like a great stock. If you're looking for lithium exposure or electric vehicle exposure, I think getting into lithium miners is a phenomenal idea. They've been performing very well over the last year. And perhaps the most notable thing about lithium miners as an electric vehicle exposure is they haven't experienced the drawdowns that other electric vehicle stocks have experienced. If you were coming out of, February and March and, the way those electric vehicle stocks came off, 30, 40, 50, 60% from the highs. The miners didn't do that. They had mild corrections, but for the most part, they stayed appreciative. And yeah, with this stock trading at 30 now, it's a stock that I'm long, but yeah, great call from TSDR there on how that was going to work. Gerg also called Micron yesterday, which is also performing well. So really good day overall so far. I mean, obviously things could change going through the session, but stuff is moving nicely. We're seeing some bids on Ivan and DMYQ now, which is headed for the 12s. So that's good to see. I like to have those steady gainers mixed in with my high beta stocks as well. Having a couple of those near NAV SPACs makes your account a little bit more stable, at least on my side of the trading aspect of it. Lucid just retook 57 as well, so there's some good sentiment for now, and it's early in the session, but we'll see how it closes out. Astra I thought was also interesting. Somebody brought that up on Play of the Week yesterday as well. Astra was I think up like 50% almost at the peak, but they had their first successful launch over the weekend, so that's driving some sentiment for that name. But yeah, that's pretty much what I'm looking at. And when I'm looking at the rare metals sector too, actually, just to touch on that again, there's kind of some broad sentiment there. Vale's up 6.5%. PLL's up 6.5%. STLD's up 5%. BHP's up 2.5%. LTHM's leading plus 7%. But that's a good sector. I think it could stay hot all week.
Sweet. Yeah, a lot of those ones from yesterday are doing really good. We've been looking at MU. Gert got in. Unfortunately, did not get it, even though really liked it coming through last week. Just talked about it with Richard. Up a decent amount in just a couple of trading sessions. So kind of waiting on that. And then I think we do have maybe a few other names. So we also were talking over again the Zoom short, and our hesitancy was like everybody's on this. Everybody's kind of talked about the Zoom short. Nobody's pro-Zoom in this situation. And when you kind of see those areas in the market, it can be often, a bit of a warning, a caution. Thoughts there?
Yeah, I have something to say. Everyone DM Wolf or Stock Market News for the calendar, not me. I think they confuse me with gaps.
Oh
DM
yeah,
Wolf, everyone. The guy with the purple and the white picture. And Stock Market News too. The guy with two bulls.
Gerg, it's blue and white. That's not purple.
I mean, look at the bottom right. Bottom left is a bit purple.
Is it blue or is it purple, Wolf?
It's
it's a
blue, but the bottom is purple.
it's a blue suit, and I'm standing on a red floor at the New York Stock
No,
Exchange. I don't know.
the wolf account. You're actually not a
Oh
journalist.
my
Oh,
god.
I thought he was talking about
Yeah.
that.
Everyone.
I was like,
Gab is like,
I
it's
was
a
like,
blue suit. I don't know what you
I was
guys
like,
are
why
talking
is he doing that?
about.
Yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't even know what to call that. That I would call a linear pattern. I don't know. It fades to purple.
Yeah, I'm obvious right. Stock Talk.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on Micron, that's for sure.
I mean, only at 150%.
How
Not
about
bad.
how about how about Celsius catching a little bit of a bid today? Came back from the depths.
Did it? I was
Down more.
surprised to see
Celsius
you pick
goes
that. I didn't
down
know if you
even
were doing
more.
that in honor of Jonah or not.
No, I I mean just look at this thing again. Like my case was one, I like the fundamentals. I've done my research into the company. I like where it's trading at. But then two, I just really do think like look, it literally just bounced right off of the 200 day today. And it came back into the green. I think that this thing has never touched the 200 day, and it's going to it's desperately seeking support, right? Like it's like trying to find it as it stutter steps down here off that big initial jump. And I think that there is a lot of support in the low 70s.
Yeah, and even
I would have
watching
thought
Apple,
I
it's
would have
up
thought Celsius would have
3%, knee
fallen
all
to
them high.
65.
Microsoft, knee all them high. Like all these large cap, mega cap names are carrying the market, and almost all these small caps are getting slaughtered right now. I think even Palantir is falling so far too. AI.
Hey everybody. I was staying quiet. I wish I would have jumped in earlier and interrupted. But I had a solid one, a trade that I'm in as of about 15 minutes ago on Qualcomm. It looks like we're going to get a bullish engulfing candle on the daily on Qualcomm, thanks to a nice morning flush that we had. I don't know if there was any PR came out, but right around about 5 minutes before open, AMD started getting a push, and Qualcomm had a pretty high volume candle to the downside, and so that immediately brought my attention. And so I essentially just took the red to green trade. I took it a little prematurely at about. Hold on, my daughter's going crazy. I took it a little prematurely for looking at the 5 minute chart. I took it right before 185 break, and yeah, I'm still in it right now. I think that one would have been a phenomenal trade. It was lagging behind MU pretty significantly. It still might be worthy for a play of the week, maybe 190 calls. I know you guys like to do options, because if we can break, which I think we will at some point this week, break the high from last Thursday of 188.72, I still think there's some significant room to go. I also wanted to bring the solar ETF TAN to people's attention. Looks like we're trying to push the high from November 1st of 101.58. We pushed right above that and not necessarily got rejected, but have stalled right about at that high. And even zooming back out, this range that it's been in since about April, we recently broke the highs in late October, and we've pulled back and held that breakout spot on this base breakout-ish, if you want to call it. And if we can break this high from November 1st, there's some pretty decent room on TAN left to go, and some of these stocks are pretty beaten down. I'm watching. I'm already in a JKS swing, Jinko Solar. I'm also watching Run SPWR. ENPH is still on its earnings gap up and continuing higher. SEDG is another one. FSLR looks very good on the daily as well. So I think there's going to be some trades to be made on some solars into the end of the year, as they haven't gotten as much of the infrastructure push or as much excitement in this past month of electric vehicles and what's the ESG kind of excitement, and I think there's going to be some rotation over to solars in the coming weeks. Maybe this week if we can break that high from November 1st. So those are some things that I'm looking at.
Very interesting. With the solars, I think you might have just mentioned it, but the FSLR as well. Is that one of the ones that you just mentioned?
Yeah, that one is
that is the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one that Jake from TrendSpider was on early last week when we were chatting. He was pretty pro that, and it's having a great day today, up 4%. Kind of he didn't really like that bottom out that it was having, and it seems like he called it almost perfectly. But with some of these things, I think it's just a reminder as to why you have to grab. If you're gonna play commons, you don't really have these problems. But if you're gonna grab options, you sometimes do have to go a little bit farther out, so that you don't just get burned by theta all along the way, because those didn't really come into the money until this week, the ones that we were talking about. Yo, what's up, Juicy?
What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody's well. How's everything with you?
Living the dream. What's going on by you?
So today was it was a great and bad day at the same time. So I guess you guys know I was holding this Apple swing. I've been all over Twitter saying buy Apple for like last week. Just buy Apple, right? So I actually got out of that trade because I had the 160s. I bought these calls, boatload of them, when we broke the 154 area. So I just sold out of those. I took about 310%. So I'm done with that. So what I messed up on, not really messed up, and this is why I urge traders to keep their losses small and follow their plan. Coming into the day, I had AFRM short on watch, that inside week breakdown. It broke down, turned around, stopped me out for minus 10% gain, 10% loss. I was also short SE. That turned around, stopped me out. I was up 5%. The next thing you know, I'm down 12%. So starting the day off, besides that Apple swing, I was actually pretty rad. Got an AMD off a trigger break. Came in plus. Right now I'm up 72%. So the gains outweighed the losses by far. And as long as you stick to your plan and keep your losses small, everything will be all good in your trading career. But besides that, that's it for me. I'm holding AMD. Looking for AMD to go to 163.
Did you trade any Tesla today?
No Tesla. I'm staying away from Tesla for now.
Why is that?
I was in it off that 1032 break, and I recently got out of it. So I feel like I'd be like chasing it in a way. So I wanted to consolidate before I get into it or pull back a little. But I definitely think that you still have room to 1235 in my opinion. It's just the way I trade. Once I get out of a trade, I don't. And if I didn't roll into that trade immediately, I'm just going to stay away from it.
Okay, got you.
You don't think it could break out past 1230, Juicy?
I think it could keep going. It's just I'm out of it, and then it kept moving. I just feel like in my career, I've burned a lot of money jumping.
Oh, no, of course. Yeah. I'm not encouraging you to FOMO. I'm just saying, but don't you think that it could break out above that 1235 level?
Yeah. 1235 is my price target right now. We're at 1192. And the reason why
I'm seeing the exact same number. So I'm sure that we're looking at the same thing.
Yep. I think it hits new all-time highs, man. There's no reason not. Look at the day. You got the MACD volume coming in on Friday. They were buying the 1250 strikes, a ton of them. So on the options flow side, so somebody knows something.
Love to see it. Gerg, you also unmuted for a second there. Did you have something?
Yeah, I sold my ME, so if anyone got in with me, so just a reminder, heads up.
Just bringing it back to Tesla.
Watch the stock crash.
Yeah, right. Big whale Gerg. I see Tesla just extreme resistance here at what is it? 1193.49. Yeah, 1193.49. Like, it is just not breaking that. It is
one of the weirdest price actions I've seen on large caps for a while is Square, in my opinion. This thing is just moving like really, really weirdly. I've been trying to trade it, but I haven't been able to time these random like. Was there news today on Square? Is that why it's down so steeply, or is it just?
Let me check it for you.
I think the last thing I saw was the Friday news of the decentralized exchange, which came out after the markets closed on Friday.
Yeah, I honestly thought the stock would respond positively to that catalyst, but
No, there's no news.
I mean, yeah, but it's
The
down
last
sharply.
news,
It's down sharply today, and the bid ask looks like people are like, "Hey, I'm trying to get rid of this." So
the
I thought that
last
was
big news was a big price target upgrade from 295 to 310 by Tiger,
I
but
mean, yeah,
nothing after
there's
that.
nothing but sellers on the tape for Square right now, so it's interesting.
No, I think Jack Dorsey wants to give out more money, so maybe people speculate he will sell his Square equity. Because first time he did that, he placed 25 or 50% of his Square equity to donate that he pledged. So people must expect, right, for him to sell more Square to donate money. Other than that, I can't find anything. There's no news.
Hey guys, unfortunately I've got a meeting at 10:30, so I got to hop off. But thanks as always for having me on. Always a pleasure, and good luck this week.
Thank you so much, Richard. Richard, before you leave, everybody, make sure that you are following Richard. He's got some crazy content that he's been putting out with some, honestly, people who led this generation of investing. He's got wild access. He interviews them. He brings it out, sends out emails with the info. So I'm really excited to see that. So let's keep pumping up Richard's numbers.
Yeah, thanks so much. Take care, guys.
All right, take care, man. Danny Nas, let's go. The man himself popping in. Let's get him up here and see. Danny, can you hear us?
Yeah, good to go, man. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
And what a good morning it is.
What have you been up to?
Woo, I'm done for the day. GME and MU send it.
Did you sell MU?
Yeah, I got an MU 85 calls on Friday, loaded the boat. So I've scaled out. I rolled up to the 90s this week. I had the 12 threes for next week, so I wanted to scale out of that. It looks like it has nice momentum. It could hit 90 this week.
Yeah, I sold that. I saw others selling on the calls, but I made 53%, so I can't complain. But GME, I didn't play GME. Are you still in GME or no?
No, I'm out. I'm out. The 85s for MU, I started scaling out over 100. I think they hit about 178 or 180 at the top. Sold a little up there, and then I stopped out at like 135, and then that's when I rolled up to the 90s. So it's just profit now. I only play with 10% of profits. So yeah,
So
with
right now, GameStop is ripping. It dipped down, but from the dip, it's up under 3%. But AMC is lagging. So GME is up 7% right now,
yeah,
and AMC is up 3.5%. So
BlackBerry was
see,
also moving as well.
yeah, so you see all of them move with GME,
Exactly.
even if there's no news. So if you see GameStop running, look into AMC because AMC usually lag behind GME by a couple of minutes. So if you can catch the trade on AMC, 45 calls expiring this Friday don't look that bad, but if you want to play calls and hold them overnight, look into next week because this week Theta will eat most of them. Why? Because the market is only open 3.5 days.
Yeah, and that's another
Thursday
reason
it's
why I
closed. Yeah.
only day traded GME very quickly because the premiums are inflated. I'm not interested in getting, burned on Theta here. So, but there was two good trades on GME right off the bat. You had that break of the 232 that I mentioned yesterday. It was a beautiful trade right up to 242, and then that morning pullback, it perfectly hit the 21 EMA, reloaded there, and I just sold off on a double top. And now it's just chopping around. So, I mean, it was just two easy trades on GME.
Yeah, I'm watching AMC though. Even though I hate AMC and I think the squeeze will never happen, for a swing trade, this might be a good move here.
I don't know if you guys talked about, but NEO had some really strong call flow this morning. Now it's up almost 10%.
News up 10%. Any news?
I didn't look at the news, but man, they had like over $1 million in premium coming in like within 5 minutes.
I don't see any news. Yeah. The last news I see is why Neo and Xpeng gains after New SUV, Rivian drops and Ford Nexus plant. Yeah, no news.
No,
But I
there's
see
news
the
on
call
Neo.
volume way above normal right there.
Yeah,
Let's
there's
see.
news on Neo. There's a media report that Neo will begin taking orders of its electric sedan, the ET7, in January.
Yeah, so the weekly 42 calls and the 45 calls are the most popular one right now. The volume is up 120% on them. The put to call is 0.15%. So for every 15 calls, you have three puts. So really bullish for flow. Earnings are in March, so that's pretty good too. I see new price target upgrades. City's at 87. Taosha is $70. 70 again. 865. Yeah, okay.
Wait, let me quickly jump in with a question here. So technical analysis is a game of percentages. You find setups and charts that are going to work, and they work X percentage of the time. I was wondering, do meme stocks and other stocks that are purely trading as trading stocks or purely trading off their technicals, do they tend to respect those technical levels a little bit more than other types of stocks? Any of you guys, I saw Danny, you unmute if you want to take that, have an opinion.
I wouldn't say a little bit more. I mean, they respect the technicals just like anything else. The problem, not so much a problem, but the thing with the meme stocks is that if, let's say, you have what I like to consider a speed bump type of resistance level, they may not respect those types of resistance levels, but they do respect the big levels. It's just when you get volume and these types of moves, they will come into their levels, but they're not going to necessarily act like other stocks that come into minor and major levels. They may just blow through them. But a lot of times I've noticed, like for GME and the AMCs of the world, when they blow through those levels, they tend to pull back and retest them. So you just gotta, I always say, whatever stock you're trading, the most important thing, you have to understand the personality of the stock. Every stock trades with a personality, and if you try and trade every single stock with the same personality, you're going to lose money. So understand what you're trading, and then understand how those stocks trade around their key levels, and that's a really big edge in the market.
Danny, I just want to jump off that quickly, and we'll go to someone else. You said every single stock has a personality. I want to throw there. What stock's personality do you hate the most? Anyone really?
Do I hate the most? Boeing. Because it doesn't matter what the news is. They may have news that they sold a trillion planes and the stock will still go down. It just doesn't trade normally. If I've lost, not that I've lost a lot of money on Boeing, but I've lost more trades than made money on it. And it's because earlier in my career, I just traded it like I would trade anything else. You buy a breakout, you buy a pullback, and it would just never work. I never understood the personality of Boeing. And so now to this day, if I take a trade on Boeing, I scale out pretty quickly because you just don't know how it's going to act.
Love it. Perfect. When I asked that question, I thought I heard someone looked like they were going to answer the meme stock question. Was anyone unmuted?
Yeah, I was going to say something quickly too. And I mean, I just a lot of people already know this. Maybe already know this. But a lot of the breakouts are so exaggerated on them simply from massive out of the money options buying. That's why when they respect those technical levels, when they to the upside at least, they're enhanced or magnified or exaggerated to the upside because of the incredible out of the money call options buying on some of these moves. I haven't been looking at GME's options flow, but I'd imagine that there's some pretty significant, or even last week or even so far today, there's been some pretty significant purchases on out of the money options today, which is probably helping prop this move up a little bit more. And if it continues higher, I think that'll be at least part of the reason.
Okay, Evan, real quick, just want to give a shout out as well to our sponsor for the space, which is Bullish Rippers. Bullish Rippers is the Green Raccoon account up here. Evan tweets from the account, so you know it is good content, and they are so close to 10,000. They allow us to make trades in the space. They kind of give us some money to buy some call options, provide entertainment value. But again, it's actually really good content that's coming out. So that's the Green Raccoon up here, Bullish Rippers, part of that Bullish brand. So make sure you're following Bullish Rippers if you are in the space, if you are enjoying the space. They help us do a lot. And I'm excited for them to get to 10K. Okay, let's recircle back. So I'm not sure if Peter's coming in right now, but let's talk macro for a second. Danny, throwing it over to you. You probably saw the news this morning about J-Powell. Thoughts on how that's going to affect the market moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's a smart move. The market has been creeping up, melting up, and the last thing you want to do as a president is rock the boat. So whether you like Jay Powell, you don't like Jay Powell, I don't think it really matters. What matters is consistency and just having a righted ship moving forward. I think if he would have went in a different direction for better or worse, it would have caused some turmoil in the markets, and that's the last thing you need right now. So I think it's just a smart move. You don't want to make any big changes right now while we're still in the middle of this pandemic, especially now with cases are still rising. So I think it's a smart move. It's a really smart political move and definitely a good move for the markets moving forward.
Yeah, seems to be the popular consensus on the choice to do it. I also saw that he was getting some support from some other congressmen and women, as well as, of course, there's always going to be opposition. Um, so it's looking both ways. All right, still looking at these large caps. I'd love for Facebook to not be dropping. Need that
Uh,
to come back up a little bit. What's up?
I'd love to come in. I'd love to throw the same thing to Stock Talk Weekly. I don't think he was here when we really talked about the earlier thoughts on Jerome Powell being reelected. I'd love to hear his thoughts on it.
Is that the news I missed this morning?
Did you not see that?
No, I've been packing all morning. I haven't
All right.
even looked at any news this morning besides a couple of my stocks that I peeped at. But he got reelected.
No,
Awesome.
he's probably
Nominated.
going to be
Yeah.
elected or like nominated to be
Nominated for
reelected.
reelection.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. I mean, contrary to many people, am actually a fan of Jerome Powell. So, yeah, I'm a big fan of it. I
Yo,
think he's.
Stock Talk, TRT dropped an offering. Did you see that?
No, they didn't.
It's on 50%.
No, it's not. Shut up. I'm not stupid. This is a non-dilutive company. That's why I fucking got
Take
into
a
this.
take a look.
No, they didn't, Greg. It would beat the stock. I'm looking at the stock right now. It's on my screen. You can't troll me.
Greg is
But,
fishing for an entry right now.
you're looking for an entry?
Nah, I don't play penny stocks. If it goes to 100 million, I might buy in.
It very well could go to 100 million. AEHR is still trading at 480. This is like probably one of the biggest value gaps in Pennyland that we've seen all year. That's why I was on it, and I'm still on it, and I'm waiting. Today we got another 1.5 million surge in volume right off the open. Last week we did like 30 million volume on a 2 million float. This float is so locked up, I can't even explain it. It's just once you cycle through a 2 million float that many times, it's inevitability. But anyways, off the topic of TRT on Jerome, yeah, I like Jerome. I think that Jerome gets a lot of, I want to say, backlash for the way he's handled the last year, and I know that the Fed has not done a perfect job over the last year and a half, 2 years, but I like Jerome because I think he has a good sense of awareness with regard to like how he portrays messaging. And, some people may see that as a bad thing because they feel like, it's the Fed's job to be brutally honest and straightforward with us, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm not sure if I agree with that because I think part of the Fed's, objective is to understand that they are conveying policy and economic data to the public. And the manner in which they do that is important because public reactions to economic data are responsible for more crashes than any actual economic impacts, right? Like public fear and public, like herd mentality is responsible for more economic downturns than anything else. And so I like that he's a Fed that's aware of like the psychological impact of the things that he does. He's always been dovish for sure for those that have listened to him speak for a long time. But I tend to be supportive of that. Honestly, I think that whether or not the situation requires hawkish policy or dovish policy, I think whether you're instituting interest rate hikes or withdrawal of QE or whatever it may be doing from a hawkish perspective that you are doing, I still think that maintaining a dovish rhetoric, if you will, like a dovish rhetoric, I think is still important because people are fickle and people are reactionary, and I think he's done a great job of that. So I don't see. I'm personally down with the renomination.
Speaking of the Fed, we got Peter in here. What's up, Peter?
He's banged up there on Palantir, so he can't respond right now.
Hey, okay, sorry I didn't hear you. Hey guys, everybody, it's all good to be here. Jay Powell is back. Forget about it. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. Enjoying the morning. It's been
Good morning.
You know what? Look, I'm absolutely baffled here that I came in this morning. Obviously, I think there's enthusiasm about no change. I'm actually a fan of Jay Powell. I was listening to Stock Talk there, and I agree in a lot of fronts. If I find him to be transparent. Look, everyone's got an opinion, and I don't really read that much into it. They've been proactive. The fact that the market is where it is today relative to the pandemic is a function of the Fed's activity. Are they? Is he forward thinking? Yes. Is he data driven decision making? The market is where it is today as a function of what they've done. I've always loved his transparency, his explanations. I mean, he doesn't really, although the conversation can be sometimes talking out of both sides of his mouth, he's thoughtful and he's transparent and he's been available. And so I've been a fan, and the market could be in a completely different place, guys. Let's realize where we are here. We are, still in the midst of a pandemic. I unfortunately think that this shit's going to be coming around and get us in the butt a couple more times here before this is over. I've been in touch with Europe a lot, and Europe is in deep, deep trouble relative to the pandemic, and the borders are open again, and my fear is that it's going to happen, yet the market continues to go higher. Obviously the hope is that the backdraft will bring the economy up a little bit, and the economy seems to be doing better, although not everybody in it is doing better. I support the move by Biden to leave Powell in power, as it were.
Love it. Yeah, it's definitely seeming to be having a nice positive effect. And I think, in all this time right now with all the chop in the market, the last thing like Stock Tech Weekly mentioned was that we don't need, or I think it was Danny actually that mentioned, we don't need another thing to just come in and wally it and womp it. Peter, what else is going on from a macro perspective?
You know what? Look, I'm kind of fascinated. I can't believe that we are where we are in the friggin' calendar, right? We're coming into to Thanksgiving. That's kind of baffling, and obviously an early Hanukkah for all those Jews on the call. And I wish you all the best on that front. We'll be lighting the giant menorah here down at the Stock Exchange next week, which will be kind of fun. You know what? I think we're going to come into the end of the year. I think, once again, I'll go back to price action. Last week on Thursday, we saw, 4 or 5 stocks that came out after the close with killer earnings, and the stocks just got, we're down 5, 6, 8%. So I beg people to be careful if trading earnings releases anticipatorily, and just let the price action, let the news come out, and use technical analysis to do that. I think we're going to have a solid end of year. Historically, years where the markets are up, you do see some profit taking at the end of the year and whatnot, and we may see that. I don't see, I see such a tight bid in the market every time we've seen any kind of a sell-off. There are people sitting around with shopping lists trying to grab some stocks that have been a little long in the tooth and a bit, frothy in their valuation, and they're not letting the markets come in that much. every time, look, we saw what happened in Tesla last week. We saw what happened in a number of these names where, they did sort of get a little bit of a smack in the head, and that then, the smack wasn't that bad. I mean, I think we're seeing stabilization in crypto once again down whatever it is, 12%, 11.5% and whatnot. The enthusiasm for the market, we saw some wonderful IPOs last week. We saw Sweetgreen come out and, they priced it at 28. It opened in the 52 range. It's baffling to me, I mean, I know they sell a very expensive salad and all, but the enthusiasm for the market, the enthusiasm for IPOs, the fact that it's a tight bid in the market, I see a solid close to 2021. People, you would think that with the surge in the pandemic and whatnot, that's never been any part of causing any resistance in the market. Look where we are here. We're 18 months into this pandemic. The pandemic has killed many. It's decimated many industries. We're super high inflation at this point. Look at gas, look at the price of lumber and whatnot. Yet the market just continues. And so the market is not being, I don't know if this is unfortunate or fortunate. The market is not being fueled by people who are struggling. It's being fueled by an investment community that has done quite well if you're in the market for the last 2 years. And I think that is a self-fulfilled prophecy. I think the market is too big to fail. There are people obviously saying we're going to look at a sell-off and a correction and all that. I don't see that happening. Every opportunity this market has had to see that kind of a follow-through on any kind of negative news, whether it's inflationary, whether it's taper story and all that, it's just not happening. The market, people always joke when I say this down here on the floor, when the market's bopping around, I say the market's doing what it wants to do. The market tells me I'm not here to be a stock picker and I'm not to be your financial advisor. I'm here to try and forensically break down why the market's doing what it's doing. The market tells me there's enthusiasm, a tight bid in the market, and it seems like it's going to go higher.
Yeah, definitely. And Peter's all about the technicals. We've had him on many times here to chat about how those are just heavily affecting the market nowadays. And he's also down at the New York Stock Exchange. Good times, good places. Appreciate the macro perspective. I also see Simon Erickson in the crowd. If you want to pop up at all, feel free to. Would love to hear your macro perspective on what's going on. But Evan, I'll bring it back to you. Any topics you would like to touch on?
Sorry, had to rearrange. I was in a photo there. Had to get back out of it. Yeah, no, I'm honestly right now making a meme on Alibaba. So to Peter or to anyone else, maybe the Chinese stock or international stocks on that right now, or if anyone else wants to take Alibaba specifically, totally with that as well. But be on the lookout for that. I think it's a good one.
So I love Baba, but I would not go long this year. Why? Because Baba, how much is it down right now on the year? So on the year, Baba's down 40%. And usually something I've seen in the last 3 or 4 years is in December, after the 15th, the stocks that have gotten beaten down the entire year, they sell off even more. Why? Because people sell them for tax purposes. So if a stock is down 40-50% year to date, I would expect more selling after December 15th, as people claim that against the taxes. So I would wait for January to go long Baba, not here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like Baba at all. Actually, just a heads up, Tesla just crossed 1,200, up 5.5% this morning.
And Rivian just broke.
Damn, those picks of the week yesterday were all fire from the speakers.
Yeah,
they're all up.
Pretty good. In the Chinese tech space, I like JD. JD's been looking from a chart perspective, has been looking pretty good. But yeah, with Baba, I mean, you're really just trying to catch a falling knife at this point. I mean, just let it drop. At some point, it'll bounce, and when the geopolitical nonsense goes away, that's the time to buy. But I don't think that's now.
I agree. Yeah. I agree 100%. These stocks, there's so many other opportunities. I know people are always looking for, to catch a falling knife or to really scoop the bottom on some of these names. There is so much bad news on the Chinese names. A stock that's been cut in thirds or in half like that, where you don't know what the big whales in China are going to do or say relative to regulation. I've gotten hurt in Didi trading the IPO badly. I think it's irresponsible of the whole Chinese space for what it's done about transparency and information as far as we go here. These are companies traded in the U.S., and the fact that if a lot of people have been badly hurt by them, I see so many other opportunities. There are names that have gotten hurt, gotten decimated, and why would we want to spend our energy trying to go there when there's so many unknown pieces of that puzzle that can be very painful. Yeah, you can be lucky, you can catch the bounce, but people were trying to catch the bounce at 170 and at 150. Now you're trying to catch a bounce at 137. There's so many awesome other opportunities as a trader and as a long-term investor in companies that are just really killing it, are looking forwardly without the potential for one news release that could cut this shit in half or could really hurt you. So I'm a firm believer in looking at information, looking at odds, looking at probability, and Alibaba is a one where the probability is pain rather than gain.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement on that. Most of these Chinese names are pretty tough. I wouldn't be looking at any of them as a long-term hold right now, besides maybe Neo. Some people have talked with me about that, the sympathy play there, the potential, that it's going to become mainstream far quicker within the country. Some of those other names that we were looking at throughout the year, like Futu, way beaten down. I'm not really touching it anymore. TIGR as well. I mean, just rough month, 3 months, even years at this point. It's crazy. These things are down on the year when at one point they were up 300-400% on the year. And they pull back so hard. Definitely no need to try to catch that. Speaking of some of these falling knives, we were talking about AUPH earlier today, still sitting down 26%. But the other one that I actually want to throw out there, maybe I'll throw this at Danny, Stock Talk. Oh, wait, real quick, before I go into AFRM, which is what I was going to talk about, which is down 8% on the day, 14.8% on the week. Mr. Simon Erickson has joined us. What's going on, Simon?
Hey, Wolf, how's it going? Good to be here with you this morning.
Great to have you on. Love the enthusiasm already hearing the voice. How's your morning been? What's been going on?
Highly caffeinated, so that's the enthusiasm coming through. But I've also got some enthusiasm on the other side of the coin for the China trades that we were just discussing as well. Maybe just in the interest of playing the devil's advocate, I see that there's a lot of opportunity for China as long as you're playing it in a diversified way. Yes, there are risks in China. We know that the regulators act erratically. We've seen that from video gaming to banking to financial services, wherever it is. But in the same way, it's not like there aren't regulatory risks for any region. I mean, look at what Facebook and Amazon are going through and Google are going through here in America. Look at how Europe is enforcing its internet. There's country-specific and region-specific regulatory risks no matter any investment you have. And I would argue that the Amazons and the Facebooks and the Alphabets of America are going to be just fine through this, even as consumer privacy is a rising regulatory risk in this country. I think that China has a unique situation because it's different shareholder rights over there than we have in the United States. You've got VIEs, variable interest entities, so you're not getting direct voting access and you don't have control like you do have in the United States. And of course, that's a concern you should always consider. But in terms of the China trade, while I do acknowledge that there are short-term risks because we've seen the erraticness, we've seen Kathy Wood pulling out of China, we've seen Masayoshi-san from SoftBank putting a hold on investing into China. But at the end of the day, I think that regulatory risks for China are still going to be there 10 or 20 years in the future. And the companies like the Tencents and the Alibabas, yes, they're going to have to adapt. But at the end of the day, it's going to be an operating expense line item for them rather than a thesis breaker. I'm not one to go out and buy small cap Chinese companies that are extremely exposed to one sector of their economy that could get crushed. But again, if you've got a large holdings company that's got several positions of its own and a several $100 billion market capitalization, I think that you can diversify away a lot of that regulatory risk that's really being featured a little too prominently in the headlines right now.
If I could just jump on that real quick. I agree. And the one name that I'm personally liking, and I'm full disclosure in, is XPEV. I like NEO, but watch XPEV over the next couple of years from an EV perspective.
Yeah, I've said the same thing, Danny. Like XPEV has become a better fundamental value than NEO.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to point out fundamental value at all, I think, in that space. But considering that everything, at least intrinsically, is pretty overvalued on paper. But I think if you're looking for a Chinese EV exposure, I actually completely agree with that. I think XBEV has emerged as the better candidate. Their month-over-month numbers have been, far better than NIO's or Lee's. And, they're a vertically integrated manufacturer, unlike NIO, which is not completely vertically integrated, although they do have, some aspects of their builds that are. But yeah, I just wanted to agree with Danny on that. I think if you're looking for an electric vehicle exposure in China, I think XBEV has become the best candidate.
And even the chart on XBEV is, in my opinion, significantly more favorable.
Absolutely.
We're just looking for essentially a close over $50, to potentially send this thing on its next run. I think there's a good trade to potentially be made on XBEV, and I like the risk reward significantly better than NIO or LI.
Yeah, it's got a very favorable wave count right now, so I'm just being patient on it.
Okay, interesting stuff there. Yeah, XBEV was one that I traded last week. I'm a little bit sad I sold out of my calls on Friday, as it popped 5% today. That would have been nice. Also, shout out Facebook for completely selling off today. Went from up 2.5%. Apparently, not all of the large caps are able to hold up here. Just sold all the way off. It's up literally 20 cents today. Looking like it
Even
might go
Snap.
negative.
Snap is getting destroyed right now.
Yeah, social.
Even Disney doesn't stop selling, so
is Twitter doing the same thing too, I'd assume?
Down 1.6%. Yeah, Twitter's down. Yeah, this
even
market's just a little bit tough.
SoFi down 6% on almost no news.
Yeah, I mean, all the money's pretty much going into
Apple, right? Apple, Microsoft,
Tesla.
Nvidia, Tesla.
Yeah, Amazon, some of it. But yeah, I mean, pretty much the money flow is doing the same thing it did last week, moving into these large caps. Really makes things interesting to see. Oh man, fumbled the bag a little bit on those Facebook calls this morning. I'd gotten back into the green on the ones I took Friday, and now they have come all the way back down. This is why I suppose everybody should be trading with stop losses, utilizing those properly. Tesla, these calls are wild as well. Even when Tesla, it could be up a good amount from where you got the calls. The theta, the way it just moves, it's just all over the place. But I still think Tesla has kind of the power to continue this breakout and keep moving. Once it broke through.
So
Yeah.
what are we buying finally for the weekly how sponsored calls or puts?
That's what I'd love to decide. Evan, has anything officially stood out to you? Do you want to go with the most? So I feel like the options here
No,
are.
he's gonna say Nvidia calls. I know how much he loves Nvidia or Zoom puts.
No, wait,
Yeah,
so
the
That's my
Zoom
best
puts.
guess.
to have one girl, I
He's-
love how you just came up with a name there. That was hey, honestly, it wasn't terrible. It fits into another Spaces series, and maybe we throw it in there, possibly. Honestly, for me, with someone who has in my top 5 holdings, stock holdings, Apple, Facebook, Tesla, Nvidia, all of them in there, I'd say it's been a pretty solid day, except for Facebook. What I would say on Nvidia is I would not take anything, a call option on it. Maybe it continues, but this is just not where I'd want to bet on it on that happen. Obviously, I'm not looking to sell. It's a core long-term hold for me, but possibly a little bit overextended. I would be looking elsewhere. What do we think of maybe a sports betting name as possible, a turnaround there, maybe Penn or DraftKings? Any
What do you
thoughts,
think,
Barry?
Stock
Stock
Talk?
Talk?
About you guys talking about your options play for the week?
Yeah. And wait, should we just go out 2 weeks on this one just because of what this week looks like?
Yeah, don't play.
I mean, I think you
weekly
guys should go. I think you guys should go out a few weeks on most of them rather than just doing a weekly. In my opinion, I don't know. I mean, it gives you more flexibility for the move, right? Like if you're just doing a weekly and you're wrong, it's right. You know what I mean?
Pretty much.
I mean, I don't know if you guys have just typically been I don't know if that's like a theme of your thing, right? I don't know if you guys have just typically been doing weeklies.
So,
but yeah, I mean, I would say in most cases.
The initial thought of this was to do it weekly. It just hasn't happened. We're not seeing a great setup or whatever. So I think maybe doing a little bit more swing trades like this could be a little bit of a move. So I'd love to.
Yeah, don't be afraid to get them a couple weeks or a couple months out. I mean, you can get some of these on some of them that might fit your budget either way, as long as you're not going like, too far in the money. Let me look at draft. You said DKNG and Penn you guys were looking at?
If anything else, I mean, first sector thoughts on that. In general, I do know your opinions on that, but yeah, any sports betting area could be up for game if there's one better.
Yeah, I was actually looking at. I mean, DKNG was on my. I have it on my notes here. I was looking to watch a 35.50 to 36 bounce. I didn't look at it this morning because I was packing, as I said, but it looks like we got that bounce right off that level.
Yeah,
36.
the call flow on DKNG in the last week has been pretty interesting. So the bottom might be in very soon.
Yeah, I think if it can hold this bounce above that, I'm seeing like 35.50 to 36 level. If it can hold that bounce above there, it's good. I mean, I would have thought that a forfeit of 35 might take it down far, but it looks like that's holding. I mean, this thing doesn't have a ton of price history. Obviously, the chart only goes back to 2019, but from what we can see, it seems like through 2020 and through middle of this year, that level has been pretty reliable, that 35 to 36 level. So I like that bounce that we just saw there. I think if it can confirm this as a reversal, then there might be some upside to retake some of those levels it's given up over the past. What is it down like 30% in 3 months, 20% in a month? Yeah. I mean, the stock's been beaten down. If it can get a reversal going here, I think it might not be a better option. The other one was Penn. Let me look at Penn. Oh no, I'm just pulling up some.
While you're looking for that, casino names got pretty nice bounce this morning.
Yeah, I noticed that on my watch list as well. Yeah, I would say Penn, like, kind of, I would want to see it kind of magnetized to this 53 or 54 level first. It's in a weird spot right now at 52. I think it probably sees more intraday downside the way it's headed right now, but yeah, I would like to see it get back to that 54 level, because that's where you have a little bit of history going back to last August and last October. You have a little bit of price history at that level between like 53.50 and 54. So I don't know. I think Penn can go either way here. I'd want to see it retake that 53 or 54 level first before considering that one. You know what I'm gonna do next week is for you guys. I'll look at a couple different setups going into this show on Mondays, and then I can give you guys more insight on it. But unless you guys have specific ones you're interested in, I mean, I'm sure we can all comment on it.
100% would love that. So that would be great.
I still like Qualcomm 190s.
On what strike date or what date?
That's where you guys come.
Yeah. I mean, that stock is up 40% this month. Yeah, that thing's moving. I guess it's kind of moving with kind of like AMD and some of those. That whole sector has been really, really strong. Lots of money pouring into it. Let me see real quick on the call flow for QCOM today.
I will say
I hate it when
I will say with the move
when I
while
start.
you're looking into that. Sorry. It did move up a lot recently, but it had kind of been a little stable or consolidating for a decently long period of time. It's only up around 180% over the last 5 years, which is a big number. And for Qualcomm, this is a bigger, more established legacy tech company. It's not going to move as fast, but that's not as huge of numbers as we've seen in some of the other plays. Yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just looking at it, and for Qualcomm, what I was just gonna say is I just got a bunch of like put alerts, which I hate when I get when like several of those come in, never fun. For Qualcomm, I mean, it's been decently bullish, like 72% of the call flow today has been pretty bullish. Filtering that out, mostly just looking at like the people that are sweeping in with calls. There's a decent amount. I don't see any insane numbers or anything like that, but there was some good stuff around like 10:30, 10:20. Looks like that might have, let's see, did that propel it right around there? Just pulling up the chart. I guess some people were kind of getting in at that initial run up at 10:20. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of gathering now. Oh man. I guess in this type of market, I'd rather buy into strength than try to catch the falling knife. In a lot of these cases, that's just seems to be working better. As long as you give it like a day or two, or a week or two, you can usually just do better there. So what's your thoughts, Danny, on Qualcomm?
Yeah, I mean, I like the sector in general. Qualcomm definitely looks strong. I've traded Qualcomm. It had a beautiful wave three activity gap up right after earnings. That was a nice power earnings gap play. Could have played it right off the anchored VWAP from the gap, which also was right at the 8 EMA. That was the time to get in if you missed that gap up. That was at 160. And we're coming into the 1618 extension at 195.59. So we broke the 1272 extension at 180.11 last week, and we back tested that actually near to the penny this morning, and it bounced beautifully. So I think we're going to 195 at the 1618. At that point, the 200 magnet turns on, so it's likely we're headed to 200. That would be the area I would be very careful if you're in calls or if you're in shares, but I like the technical setup. I just feel like it's run really hard. It's a bit extended off the ADMA, so I wouldn't be a buyer up here, but I would be managing my trade if I'm in.
Okay, that's pretty fair. All right, so we've been running for almost 2 hours. I think we've hit on most of our sections. If anyone's unfamiliar, we do this every Monday at 9:20 a.m. EST. And the first section we started off with was about 10 minutes of news. Once we went into market open, we did an overall scan. And, speaking of scan, just taking a look at the FinViz scanner real quick. Yeah, I mean, Apple, Tesla, NVIDIA, I mean, that whole semiconductor area just really on fire. The banks, someone talked about this last night. I think it's FAS. I'm pretty
Yeah, that's
sure
the
it's FAS.
3x
Yeah.
bull on banking.
Yeah, the 3x pull on banking up 5% today makes sense when you take a look at that. Overall area, energy's up today. I mean, honestly, S&P's pretty green. It's like it's just these growth names, these small cap growth names that I think are just kind of pummeling a lot of people. Because when I'm just like flipping through it, overall S&P looks great today. I mean, it's up what 0.7, 0.8%, something along those lines. And obviously, I think this is 15 minutes delayed, so there might have been a slight pullback in the last 10 minutes. But even like basic materials looks good, energy and gas, oil and gas. I mean, they all look good. Capital markets, you've got, Morgan Stanley, Schwab, GS, asset management, banks, a lot of really good stuff. Cisco, they've been moving, but I think there has been a move towards a little bit of a pullback here as we move into the latter half of the day. I know that it happened on Facebook and not reflecting it yet. It's always tough when their data is a little bit delayed. Hopefully, could see a midday bounce in some of these names that are pulling back here. And then after we make it through news, market open, we do talk over. If you probably heard us been listening and heard us talk about stock of the week. That's one thing which we were just talking over. That's sponsored by Bullish Rippers, who's up here. And then after that, we usually just kind of chat, trade. Right now in this market, it's been a little bit tough today for some of us, but hopefully it's been helpful. Sometimes we bring up some people as well to listen, to speak on these things, a little bit of things along those lines. But I think we've covered a majority of stuff. I'm getting a little bit hungry. Evan, is there anything else that you want to touch on while we're here? And if we want to make a move with Play of the Week, we can. If we want to reconvene with Stock Talk Weekly, we should actually do it this time and actually make that purchase. But yeah, I think we've covered a lot of stuff. Anything else, Evan?
Yeah, no, first, I just want to emphasize, make sure you check out and follow everyone we have up here right now, all our speakers. Everyone in here we select who to come up here is so smart and amazing at getting their point across, have so much information to give, and their Twitter feeds are a great example of that. If you enjoyed the spaces, you're going to enjoy following every single one of them up here. I think this was a great spaces, and I'm excited to hear what everyone else is doing this week in wrap-ups, and I'm down to maybe talk through the play of the week a little bit more. I would love to get something in maybe by today, tomorrow, and we'll see you and report back on that.
Yeah, I think we have several potential possibilities. MU, QS, or not QS, Qualcomm. we can come in on some of these large caps. I don't think we've settled in on anything just yet, but for now, let's go into just some closing comments and just hear what else is on people's radar moving forward, give people a good idea what to look out for the day. But yeah, 2 hours in, getting hungry, long day. So let's go into it. Okay, Dan, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, sure. I'm like I was saying yesterday on Stock Talks call, I'm keeping it light this week. I'm gonna really severely under trade. I like MU for continuation, possibly to 90 this week or next. I think the semiconductor space in general, pick and choose your winners, but I think Nvidia and AMD are already, towards the top of their moves. I think MU and Qualcomm, Qualcomm I would put into that bag as well. I think MU has potential to make a little bit more of a run along with TSM. So just keep an eye on MU and TSM for the rest of the week. Just really wanted to touch really quickly on XPEV. I failed to mention, so I just want to definitely put this out. We do have earnings tomorrow, and the setup that I'm looking at right now is the potential for a wave 3 to start. So I'm telling you right now, if this thing gaps over 50 and we get that gap peg play, watch for that pullback entry because this thing will go likely to 76 to $80 on the move. Can't tell you how long it's going to take, but it'll be wave 3 of 3, and it's most powerful wave in an Elliott wave setup. So just keep your eye on that. Apple looks great, nice continuation. Tesla bumping up against 1200, that could go. Lucid back and forth. But for me, my meme risky play of the week is going to be GME, as I called out last night. So keeping a close eye on memes this week. And yeah, thanks for having me. I just popped in really quick because I saw it was on and I was done trading for the day. So I figured I'd listen in and appreciate you letting me kind of do my little thing here. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the week, Gav. I know we'll be on a couple of times, so I'll see you in a little bit. And let's go GME.
100%. Always great having you on, Danny. Yeah, I know we got a couple more spaces planned out together. Okay, keep the ball rolling. Gerg?
What's the question?
Just any closing thoughts?
So this week, try to avoid playing weekly options. Like I said, the market is only open for 3.5 days. Theta will eat most of them, so stay away from weekly options. So what do you guys decide for the weekly play? NVIDIA, AMD, or MBA?
I think they're still deciding it, Gerd.
Are you?
Yeah, we're quite indecisive, especially in this market right here. It's not giving me like a ton of, push to just jump into anything.
So I was looking to buy some Rivian puts as it's about to break up below $100, but the IV is almost 200, so not a lot of money to be made shorting Rivian.
For people in the crowd who are unfamiliar, can you just explain that thought process right there real quick? When the IV is too high, why you wouldn't want to short or sometimes even
Yeah,
go
so
long?
when the IV is high, very, very high, the market has already implied the very big move happening. If the move doesn't happen, IV usually after the event, IV goes down by a large amount. And even if the stock is flat, you will lose money, and Theta do. So that's why right on earnings, even if you buy calls of a stock that has very, very high IV, earnings anticipate the large move, and after the earnings, the IV drops down. People call that an IV crush. The option will lose a lot of the premium, and even if you buy calls and the stock is up a couple percent, you lose money. So some people just buy calls, right? If they think the stock will go up, they will make money. But the options have a lot of other factors. Could be theta, could be the IV, could be the other premiums to Euro to RHO, which is usually forgotten. But you always watch IV if you plan to play options for a longer, more than a week. Even if you bet on the right direction, you might lose money just cause the move forward is extreme. Like IV above 100 or above 80 is considered high, but some cases you might even see 3 or 400. So in these scenarios, I'd love to be the seller of the calls on the puts instead of being on the other side. Like I will sell the calls or puts right now, and when the IV goes down, I'll just buy them back. But Draven, right? I wouldn't short the equity right now. So usually, if I only short the stock like Rivian, I would wait a couple of weeks for the IPO. But I would wait right now as the IV is sky high. Even if the stock goes down 10%, you might only make 10-20% maximum.
Yeah, the IV is really killer on some of these, and I think it goes back to what you just said there. Like selling the calls in some of these areas is, akin to being the house. If you're putting into like a casino terms right there, removing a lot of that risk from needing, a massive move, and then always having that ability to purchase them back. Definitely good points there, and things that, not a lot of people, I would say, trade that way. But it's definitely, if you're going to venture into it, really smart stuff to know. Anything else, Kirk?
Nope. I think I'm done for the day. No more trades. The market's a bit choppy, right? A lot of players can't sustain the move like Facebook, right? Sold off, was almost up 2%. Snapchat going down, PayPal dipping, so far down, no news, PayPal. I think all of the financial sector, especially fintech, is down. All the banks are holding steady, but look at all of them, right? PayPal, SoFi, Affirm too, right? I think Affirm gave up the 200-day moving average, correct?
Yeah,
I think
firm
Affirm
got
break
killed.
$100. Yeah, a lot of these names are getting hammered for no reason. But I think Affirm goes up under $100
Wait,
by
a
end of
firm
the year.
didn't give up. You said 200-day moving average?
Yeah, I think last time I looked, yeah.
No, it's
Let
a firm's
me.
200-day moving average is all the way down at like 90.
Are you sure? Let me look up.
Yeah.
Hey, Gav, really quick. I'm sorry to interrupt. You wanted to talk about a firm earlier, but you didn't continue into it.
Yeah, I was going to talk about how it's coming down towards some anchor VWAPs
Okay.
from back towards those Malos. And yeah, I mean if you have any thoughts on it, would love to hear them.
Yeah, absolutely. Really quick. I did post a chart up top. I think it's maybe two in. And I don't remember if this was on a space last week with you or maybe with Stock Talk where we were talking about a firm. I think it was with Stock Talk. We were talking about coming down to like that 116 level. I think that's going to be your first area to watch, but I have a buy zone between 101 and 115, and that's exactly where the volume shelf is from the swing low on the head of the inverted head and shoulder breakout. So that's where I'm looking. Pretty much what we discussed. We're seeing it play out at a pretty big acceleration move, obviously today. So I do think we get into that supply or that demand zone below, and we'll see if we get a bounce off of that. But we also have a two dot squeeze to the downside on the daily chart, and that generally can last another 6 days to 8 days. So I'd watch for a potential bottoming in the next week and a half to 2 weeks on a firm.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it was 50-day, my bad. I shared the chart on the top. The 50-day was
Hmm.
138.43, and right now it's at 136.16. So, and the 200-day is at 18.89. So, a lot of way to go for that. But I
Pro
think a firm goes sub $100 before the end of the year. What do you think?
uh I think, I would like to see around this 111 area how it reacts. I'm not trying to get in right now, but down here near the 111, 112, you have that very large volume ledge where it didn't spend very long traversing there, but it spent a little bit of time there. And kind of would have to break through, I think, a key anchored VWAP as well above it. If it breaks down through 110 and then gives up the 100-day moving average, then yeah, then I would
Yeah, so
see.
a firm, right? The firm has a gap from 90 to 102 back from September. Do you guys see that? It might come down to fill that. So there's one more gap from 62 to 92.
Yeah,
That's from September too.
yeah, that was the acceleration gap. That's the acceleration wave three gap. I personally don't think we get down there. I think we're in wave three. I'm sorry. I think we topped out wave three. I think we're in our wave four pullback. And that's why I feel like 100 is going to act as a nice support level. Certainly it can come back down more, but I do feel like we're not ready to test that gap just yet.
Yep. All right. With that being affirmed, let's keep it rolling. TSDR, any final comments?
Just want to note the IWM today and what I'd like it to do. So obviously I've said this multiple times. We got the breakout over about 232 to 234. Had to push up to that 243 level, and are since pulling back and retesting the breakout. I don't want to say breakout spot, but breakout range from about 234 to 232. And if it holds and remounts and gets moving again, it looks very, very bullish into the end of the year, and kind of something that I've been looking at a lot, and it might be playing out today. IWM is leading today. That's my daughter in the background, and up nearly 1%. And the past about 45 minutes, as the Qs have been dropping, fairly decent drop, nothing significant, but IWM has been holding up very well. So I just want to note the IWM relative strength and bouncing off of former resistance and potentially holding it as support now.
Yep, makes sense. It's definitely one that gets a lot of action on it. Okay, going to you, Stock Talk Weekly.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Closing remarks. Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm just kind of seeing how this week flushes out. I didn't know how I was going to start. I'm kind of with TSDR. I'm looking at IWM. I'm in a bunch of small cap and SPAC names, which tend to move in sympathy. I mean, certain names move in sympathy with QQQ instead. But today, I mean, we're having a pretty good day. DMYQ, which we've been pounding the table on for, I don't know, since October, I think. It has been doing well. So, I have a massive position there at 10.06 cost, and now it's trading near 12. So, up significantly, actually not taking profits on that one just because of my zero risk entry and me thinking that this trades higher, especially considering what IonQ did coming out of merger. I think that, Niccolo de Masi, who, for those who don't know, he's the one who started the DMY franchise of SPACs, which includes RSI, Genius Sports, IonQ. He's just been killing it. And I think now the market's starting to place trust in his deal-making ability and driving some of these, SPACs higher. The merger for DMYQ is actually on December 3rd. So we're getting close to a merger on that name as well, which might be drawing some extra volume there. I already talked about LTHM, which TSDR obviously called it as a trade yesterday. It's a longer term position for me, but nice to see that bouncing. CHPT was another one I was looking at. I was looking for a breakout above 2850-ish, and we kind of got a rejection there this morning. And it's been trading lower ever since, kind of downtrending intraday now. But we'll see if it can bounce here. It's looking like it's trying for a bounce off this 2750 area intraday. So if we get that, it might retest the 2850 highs. But I think above 2850 charge point can break out again. So that's another name I'm watching. Tesla was nice to see a rebound there. I want to see a retake of the 1230 level on Tesla. If it does that with volume, I might get into some calls. Because that's going to be new price territory for Tesla past that. If it can close the candle out past that 1230 area with volume. So that's another name I'll be looking at. So really EV focused for me this week so far as what I'm seeing. I'm actually really happy to see IonQ down today. Way too many green days in a row for a long-term position like that for me. I mean, it was nice to see. Sold a lot of calls into strength on IonQ, made a bunch of money on that, so that was nice. But really good to see it down a bit today. If it goes down further, I might buy back some of the calls I sold. What else am I looking at? RDW pissing me off as usual. Still really annoyed that they have not communicated anything about earnings. I want to be a net buyer down here, like heavy. But again, just following my own rules, I want to see what they say in the ER before I add more to what is already a really overweight position. So RDW weighing on me a bit. But other than that, TRT had a really good morning. TRT is still looking good price strength wise. Ivan was one I called last week. I'm being patient on that one. Merger probably won't be till Q1. They might be able to squeeze out a Q4 merger, but I doubt it. So, there might be some delayed action on that. We've been typically seeing with most SPACs, the real volume isn't coming until we get closer to merger. It's kind of a new makeup of the asset class, contrary to what we saw last year, where everything was running on LOI and DA. It's not really the case anymore. So, yeah, just keep my eye on those names particularly. BidF is another one I'm watching today. We traded the calls on, I believe it was Friday of last week or Thursday of last week. It was kind of settling around this area, picked up the calls. It rebounded all the way red to green from like a -7%. So those paid nicely. I still have equity position here on BidF, but my cost is in the sixes. So I'm always hesitant to add at these levels. I do think it trades higher on Bitcoin strength. Bitcoin's just hesitating a bit today, so that might be part of the reason for the sell-off. I think people were I think buyers Friday of this name and many of the other miners were anticipating a Bitcoin move over the weekend or this morning, and they didn't get exactly the move they were looking for. So I think that's why some of those names are selling off. And then Square is another one I'm watching. I think below 200, I may get interested in relonging Square. I haven't charted this one as well as I want to yet, which I need to do. I'll probably do that on the bus later on. There is, that 197 kind of hinge on Square where, if you look at the 1 year chart on Square, it's kind of consolidative in a weird way, but in a very big channel, in like almost a, 30% range, 35% range of a channel. I mean, it's been this like big episode of runs and pullbacks throughout the last year. And so looking at that chart, what I'm seeing is that a forfeit of that 197 level with volume on the downside could send this lower. If not, I'll be looking for a strong bounce off that 197 level, which we've seen actually, historically going to that back in the last year. This chart has bounced aggressively off those 200 levels. If you look back in January, had a massive bounce right off 200 and then all the way up through February. I mean, keep in mind that was the peak of the speculative market, so that was probably part of that. But, ran up to above 275. Then at the end of February, came all the way back down into March to that 200 level, rebounded again all the way back up to the 250. So there's a history of this bouncing really strongly off that level. And we're getting close to there now with the stock down 7.5% today. So that's another name I'll be watching. But that's what my eye's on for now.
Awesome, man. Love a lot of those names. Appreciate you, giving your insight on each one, breaking them down clearly. Excited to follow up on them, and I'm sure we'll be talking about them throughout the week. Okay, going to my awesome co-host, Evan.
Awesome. Thank you, man. Another amazing good morning, FinTwit. I always love these spaces. Make sure you check out all our speakers. Give them a follow, like I said before. Bullish Rippers, they sponsor parts of the spaces. I tweet from the account quickly. I pinned the most recent tweet. It's a meme for Alibaba. If you're an Alibaba shareholder, I'm sure you'll find this one funny and a little bit heart-wrenching maybe, but if you're not an Alibaba shareholder, you'll just find it funny. It's linked at the top. Make sure to check it out. We got another spaces today, myself and Wolf, coming at 3 p.m. with the street. I know Stock Talk Weekly will be on there. I think Gavin will be on there. Anyone else is invited. Should definitely check that out. And then I know Wolf's got another spaces at 6:30 p.m., but I'm going to throw it back to you, Wolf.
Yeah, so I did not know that was happening at 3 p.m. today. I thought it was on Wednesday. So I'm interviewing, I think, like a potential intern then. But that should only run 30 minutes. So maybe I'll jump in for like the second half. It's rude at this point to like try to reschedule with them. So I'll try to jump in for the second half of that. But yeah, I'm really excited as well for 6:30 p.m. EST today. When to sell. I think that is just so important because it feels like a lot of us don't make terrible investment buying decisions. Often, much more often, it feels like it's the when to sell. And when to sell, I think, is we're going to discuss how it does go against some of basic human psychology to, let our winners win, cut the losers. It's a tough scene going both ways. With that being said, one more time, if you are not already on the Spaces calendar, it is an easy Google Calendar that you can use to add all of our spaces to your Google Calendar for free, no charge at all. All you have to do is DM myself or my co-host with your email, and we will add you to it today. I already have a bunch of DMs I have to get through, so feel free to pile on into the DMs with either one of us. We'll be on Spaces all week. We really enjoyed everybody that joined us for over 2 hours today. Although I lost money trading during the space, to be honest, to be completely honest, I still enjoyed the space, enjoyed talking with people, enjoyed throwing some more ideas around. And before I close it up, Stock Talk Weekly, you have one more thing you want to say?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to say, for those of you that are tuning in, that do tune into these regularly, I have a pretty big Spaces tomorrow that I would love to see a great reception at. It's with a guy that's, I admire a lot, which is Nicola Demasi, who I discussed earlier. For those of you that know about DMYQ, IonQ, RSI, Genius Sports, he's the man behind all those SPACs. Just really like a wonder of a speaker to listen to, super smart. He's going to give us context into the SPAC industry in general. He's going to give us really detailed answers on all of his SPACs. I'm going to be asking some hard-hitting questions, really detailed questions. So I would love to see you guys there tomorrow. That's going to be at 2:30 Eastern on Twitter Spaces. I'll be tweeting out a reminder link here in a few hours for those of you who want to set a reminder for that. But I would love to see a turnout there tomorrow. It would make him feel really appreciated by the retail community. I know that. So just wanted to say that. Thanks, Gav.
100%. Yeah, we'll make sure that a lot of people show up and out to that. I have that on my calendar, on the Twitter Spaces calendar, so that'll be happening. Also, if you enjoyed these spaces, I threw my personal accounts up here. It's the Golf Blacksburg account. I can tweet more openly from there sometimes about what I'm personally investing in, things along those lines. Sometimes I host spaces from it, so feel free to throw that one to follow as well. We'd love to get that to 7K this week. With that being said, wishing everybody a fantastic rest of your Monday, a great holiday week. I think we're going to have a lot of fun this week. I'm excited for what's to come, and we'll see you back on Spaces in just a few hours. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.